Well, let me ask you this: when you started now, to where you are now, what you got going now, but the lessons you learned. I mean, you come at it as a fan, and I think that's a new and kind of a neat perspective.
And that's the main thing. I'm not really a movie critic, because to me that means you got to criticize, right. You got to critique. I don't do that. I review movies. I tell you what I like. I don't tell you what you like. I don't tell you what's good or what's bad. I review the movie. Because the way I look at it, if the good Lord had wanted me to think for you, he'd have gave me your brain. Since he didn't, think for yourself. I'm just telling you what I like. Now, one thing I will do is let you know if I think it's appropriate for children, and then you decide from that. I've had people bring 9-year-olds to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I've had to ask them, what about Chainsaw and Massacre didn't you understand? Things like that. But some movies are just appropriate. PG-13 is probably the most dangerous rating there is, because you never know. You can have the F-bombs, drug use, sexual innuendos, all of that in a PG-13 movie. So parents have got to be aware of what their children are seeing.
I like what you talk about. You have the right to make whatever you want to write, yeah. But let's figure a way how we're going to tell people what that is. And exactly. That's what you've done a good job of. You started your webpage. You did a lot of stuff. I don't know if folks know that they go out there. So listen, hey, this movie's this, but hey, there's a lot of cursing in it, or there's a lot of this
exactly.
and that. And that's fine. You still want to go to it. That's they got to live their life and go to the movies that they like, and that's wonderful. But it's nice that you have people like Reggie. Gives people the option to see exactly what's out there.
When I go to the movies, I'm a fan. Some movies, you got to just get your popcorn, put on your seatbelt, and go for the ride. Other movies, you got to think about. But all I am is I want to be entertained. I know the difference between being entertained and being preached to. When I want to get preached to, I go to church. When I want to live life, I step outside my door. But when I want to be entertained, I go to the movies.
Let's describe what good movies are, first of all. And you said this a while ago.
Right.
Was movies that entertain you.
Right. I like all kind of movies with a couple of exceptions. I really don't like movies that have translations, because if I want to read, I'll get a book. I don't want to read a movie because I'm a slow reader. By the time I finish reading what it says, I'd have missed the action that didn't happen on the screen. They did a survey. They do surveys on everything. Right. But 65% of all people go to a movie to laugh. And out of that 35% left, most of them go to be frightened. So that's a huge chunk of all of the people for all the reasons. All of them go to be entertained. Not a single person said they go to a movie to learn how to grow up.
And that entertainment could be anything from Lords of the Ring and the fantasy
exactly.
to you like them scary movies.
I love horror movies, even bad horror movies. That's another reason why I'm not a good critic. I'm not objective on horror movies. I love horror movies. In fact, Scott, one of the best ones was when the funniest thing in the world is to see you at a horror movie. Because you get so scared.
What was the one you took me? It made me sit there. Was that
Deep?
And that's not even a horror movie, but it's scary.
Yeah.
I don't like jump out movies. I mean, I go to them, and everybody likes to be scared.
The funniest
but
thing. But
Samuel L. Jackson gets eaten in about the first 20 minutes.
Nothing in the world is funnier than seeing somebody 7 feet tall jumping up and screaming in the middle of a movie because a shark jumped on Samuel Jackson.
That's Samuel L. Jackson. He's not supposed 30 minutes in the movie.
That was a surprise. But when you jumped up and screamed, I said, oh, my God, that was the funniest thing I've ever seen.
The funny thing, horror books, scary books, I read by the volume, everything Stephen King's put out, Dean Koontz. I love.
You spend overnight at horror houses.
Yeah.
Something I couldn't do.
Say that word right before you.
Horror
houses. Yeah. My wife might be watching me.
Yeah, that's true.
But and I can read all those books, and I go to scary places. But see, I got straight too. I figure if them ghosts, all them spirits and demons right, then I know the Lord's right too, and I'm okay with him.
Exactly. You got faith.
Yeah, So I'm not afraid of that stuff.
And I just love that type of movie where the unexpected happened, because I know it ain't gonna happen in real life. And that's why I go to a movie, to be entertained. Scott, I want to thank you so much for spending some time with us today. I want you to know I appreciate you coming out I couldn't begin without you, because that's where I got my start, with you.
You got your start because you're supposed to get your start. You're the man.
Well, I appreciate it. And I love you too. We'll be right back. Now, this is my favorite part of the show. This is where I get to tell you about 3 particular movies, 3 this week. Now, the movies that I have for you are Deja Vu. The movies that I have for you are Deja Vu. Gotcha. Besides for Deja Vu, we're going to do Bridge to Terabithia, and we're also going to do Amazing Grace. Now, Deja Vu is a movie that is very, very good. It stars Denzel Washington, and he's intense, but what makes this movie so good is that Denzel Washington actually becomes somebody that you know. He becomes someone who's a friend to you. He's Ray Ray from down the street. He's actually not an actor, but a person that you know and you like. And his only concern is, I've always solved crimes after they happen. I like to stop one before it happens. And that's what this movie's about. Remember that feeling you get where you've heard something before or you've done something before? That's deja vu. That's what this movie is about. A fellow blows up a military boat, and they're trying to stop it. Denzel Washington and Val Kilmer are trying to stop it before it occurs. You've got to see this movie. I've seen it 4 times already.
Between the river and the rain, if AMFO was used, the only place you'd find it would be
underneath this bridge.
That's right.
The other 2 movies are unique in the way they're being promoted. Bridge to Terabithia is a movie that came out with the previews just like it was the Chronicles of Narnia, a fantasy film. And it's not really a fantasy film. This is a movie for kids, but it's also a movie for adults. It's an instructional video to teach adults, and that's why this movie not only is a good movie, it's a very important movie. It stars Denver's own Anna Sophia Robb, but it's a very, very, very deep and good movie.
That's impossible.
Then lastly, you have Amazing Grace. Now this is a movie, if you want to tell people about it, they'll never go see it. If I told you a 17th century period piece about faith and slavery was on at the theaters, would you pay $9.50 to go see it? I don't think so. But this movie is more than that. This movie goes into the abolition of slavery in England, but it goes into that song, Amazing Grace. Wilbur Wilberforce is the one who took 17 to 21 years of his life to abolish slavery in the English Parliament, but his mentor was a preacher who wrote the song Amazing Grace. Now, that's not so amazing. What is amazing is that he used to be a slave trader. He was the one who used to bring the slaves over to America. So for him to write Amazing Grace is truly, truly a deep film.
I once was blind, but now I see. Did I write that?
Yes, you did.
Now at last it's true.
Those are the 3 films we have today. All 3 of these movies should be seen on the big screen, but Amazing Grace, you may want to check it out at a matinee if they were about to open. But since they're all on DVD, I'm telling you, you need to get these 3 DVDs. Well, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and you'll come back again next time. As my father used to say, in the fields of human endeavor, you can never be too clever, for there's always a however in life. All right, then.